Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for some definitive proof that BYU should be in the playoff field right now? I've got some from a national college football writer that I would like to share with you here in just a moment. So we're going to continue to talk about this BYU playoff case because it is dominating at least a lot of my feed. Okay, I understand Miami versus Notre Dame is the real topic du jour nationally as it relates to these college football playoff rankings, but in Big 12 country, this certainly is a big deal. And I know there's been a lot of conversation about where is the Big 12 in this? Why are we not seeing more of a public push? I do have at least a couple theories to offer as far as that is concerned. I'm not sure that's going to necessarily satisfy anybody, but hopefully find some ways to try and think about other things that could be happening or at play here. All right. Plus, I really wanted part of the reason I wanted to do this show today is because I wanted to go in depth or just get my take on this Oklahoma State hire, which I think is a great one for the conference. I think it's a really good sign that Oklahoma State was able to go get Eric Morris and secure the coach that they did. I think the question that I will pose to you is, should this put the Big 12 on notice? Should this put everybody else on notice? We'll ask that. We'll talk about that. Shorter show tonight. I'll go ahead and tell you that up front. I'm exhausted from my travels in the last 24 hours. And look, it's Thanksgiving coming up. I'm even going to take a break from the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, at least one edition of it, because of Thanksgiving. So I hope you guys are all having a great holiday. And maybe you can listen to this while you are driving tomorrow. Maybe you're already with family right now and you listen to it when you're driving back, whatever the case may be. I hope that I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you have a great holiday. So please like the video as you come in. This is Open for Business, the world's best Big 12 podcast. I'm your host, John Kurtz. Thank you for listening wherever you listen. If you're on audio, make sure you rate and review. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. All of that really helps. It is totally free. Fill up that chat room. You can submit a super chat by clicking the $ below the chat box. If you are so inclined to do that, I would appreciate it. It will guarantee that your question or comment makes it on the show tonight, and it's just a great way to support the channel. It's also, you can do that on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4 if you are not able to watch this live and you still want to drop me a line. I will get to it to kick off the next show. And even though I am taking a bit of a break from Open for Business to just try and, against my own will, I'm telling you, like I always want to be working, but I'm not going to. I'm going to force myself to take a bit of a break, but you can still subscribe at ofbnews.com. Typically multiple times per week. It is totally free. All right. BYU. Here we go. Before I get to what some of the explanations may be here, definitive proof. Definitive proof the way a playoff should be selected, right? No labels, no brands. What have they accomplished on the field? We have definitive proof. BYU belongs in that field, and it is from a national writer/reporter who did that exact exercise himself. Plus, why are we not seeing more of a push from the Big 12? I at least have some theories to offer you on that front, okay? At least have some theories. So let's start with David Ubben, okay? Works for The Athletic, national college football reporter. He's been around the Big 12 for a long time. Shout out to the ESPN Big 12 blog way back in the day. I mean, I'm trying to remember when David was there. Then, Max Olson did it. Jake Trotter did it for a little while. Did Max Olson do it? I know Jake Trotter did it for a while. Maybe I'm mixing those up. But David Ubben, I feel like, was doing that around 2010, 11, 12, maybe. Anyway, that's for the Big 12 old heads there. He's now at The Athletic, but this is a national guy. He's covering national games. I see him writing a lot about SEC football, for instance. He's gone on to do a lot of things since the Big 12 days. He took a total blind resume test here with teams A through G. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 teams, which is very funny, right? A, B, C, E, F, G, H. Yeah, because I was about to, sorry, I had to go through the alphabet. I was about to make the same joke they make in Austin Powers, right? Preparations A through G have failed. Here's teams A through G. Shout out to the real ones who know that joke. BYU is involved. The other 6 teams are all 9-2, right? So you have blind resumes here. David Owen goes through the exercise, right? If we're looking at BYU's resume, they have strength of schedule is 29. That ranks 4th out of the 7 teams. Their strength of record at 12 ranks 4th of the 7 teams. Their record against the top 25 is 2-1. Their record against winning teams is 6-1. Average point differential at 10. That is their worst category. That is where they do finish last, just barely in all this. They also do a combined opponent record and a combined opponent win percentage. And so David is picking 3 of the 7 teams to go based on this. He picks BYU, Oklahoma, and Alabama out of this. It really spells out some of the absurdity of the discussion point nationally right now between Notre Dame and Miami, because David going through and picking blind resumes doesn't pick either of them. They get left out along with Utah, by the way, who was in this, and Vandy. They all get left out of the blind resume pick there. So Oklahoma, Alabama, and no Miami or Notre Dame, despite, I will mention, it was quite funny that we saw the ACC try to throw some propaganda out there. And when I say propaganda, I mean propaganda against the Big 12, both BYU and Utah. And it wound up getting dunked on by a community note on Twitter, which is terrific. Didn't even take the Big 12 or anyone responding to the nonsense. It got community noted for being incorrect, basically, is what happened there. So, not only do we have writers picking BYU from a blind resume pool, but if you're looking at the sign that things are not going well, it's when you're creating graphics that have very deceptive statistics on it. And this I had not seen until just this afternoon, but posted last night by the ACC. They're trying to push Miami against BYU and Utah, which is a little bit funny to me on a couple of different fronts. I mean, one, BYU and Utah weren't even in the field. And I think most people could have figured out that BYU was probably not, like, BYU and Utah were not going to be in the field. So interesting that they would decide to go ahead and do that. But anyway, they did. But you can see here, it's a little hard to read even on that screen. It says top 25 wins at time of game. At time of game. This is like that SEC account that had a statistic, or I don't remember which team it was about, but pushing some SEC team in terms of wins that they had against preseason top 25 teams. And so everybody started dunking on that and being like, oh, well, this was the number 1 team in 1985 and they just got beat. Same sort of thing there versus top 25 wins at the time of game. And it got community noted and said, well, hey, Arizona's now in the top 25. BYU beat them. So they actually have 2 there, which is pretty funny. You can tell the ACC is pretty desperate when they're doing that. Also interesting that it was that as opposed to just go after Notre Dame. ACC, I would just be going after Notre Dame if I were you. I digress. That's where the ACC's head was at. Trying to get one over on the Big 12 did not really work. Now, I also understand that a lot of people see that and say, well, hey, why is the ACC doing that? Why is the Big 12 not making a big public push right now? And that's something that I asked this morning. If you saw the video that I posted this morning, which gave a little more in-depth look into the numbers for BYU and why, based on a resume, BYU really should be included. It's just I keep hearing, predictive metrics is the thing that I've seen today, along with, of course, just eye tests, but predictive metrics is the thing I've seen a lot of today on the socials of people saying why BYU shouldn't be in there or whatever. I think there are a couple things here that I at least just having some time to think about this. Why are we not seeing the Big 12 be more aggressive like the ACC? Well, one, you do have to be careful because if you try too hard like the ACC did, you get community noted and laughed at, right? Nobody wants to be Hunter Yurachek, the Arkansas athletic director turned playoff committee chair, who's making a 6-7 joke about a team being 6 or 7, which did not land well with seemingly anybody in the college football world. Rest in peace to the 6-7 joke. I think it's officially dead. But I would say this. One, I do wonder if after you get a conference title game set, if there will be a more aggressive push, because once you have that, and it's like, okay, those two teams, like we know they're there. We feel like they should both be in no matter what happens in this game. Then you can start like a more concentrated assault. Whereas you're just being a little more cautious if you're going to wait until you have the conference title game set this week. But if you know it's Texas Tech and BYU and they take care of business, maybe there is still more of a push coming that we haven't seen yet. And look, I think the hope has to be that they're just being way more aggressive about this behind the scenes. And if we are being honest, I mean, look, BYU should be in the field full stop right now. And it is very frustrating that they are not. But I do think if you look at the other two teams out of the three there, like Utah's not going to make the field, but Utah's been given a healthy amount of respect. I think to have Utah at 13 is a very healthy amount of respect considering what its resume actually is with 2 losses. And Texas Tech at number 5 actually is a healthy amount of respect for the Red Raiders too. Like they've got a shot. They get one upset in front of them. They can be a team that gets a bye. And who would have thought that coming into the year? Like if you would have said to anybody back in August, hey, the Big 12 will have 3 teams in the top 13. One's going to get a bye. I do think you would be like, well, man, yeah, I'll take that and run. I don't think, how is the league going to get that much respect? And I think on the other hand is the perspective of Shahan Jayaraja that I talked about in the video this morning. Hey, Texas Tech might be like the second best team in the country, but people just aren't willing to go down that road. S&P Plus has them as the second best team in the country. So Texas Tech's that you could go either way on that, I suppose. We're not thinking highly enough of Texas Tech, or this is actually a lot of respect that, I will just say at the beginning of the year, like in August, if you would have told me kind of what would have played out and what would have happened, I'd think, well, they'll view that Arizona State loss as bad, and Ole Miss, Oregon, teams like that would be in front of Texas Tech, but they're not. So there is at least that, and that gives me hope that the Big 12 is doing some work behind the scenes that perhaps we're not able to see as much that is being effective here. Maybe that will work to get a push to get BYU across. I'm certainly cynical about that, much like many of you are. I do understand. I think another thing to keep in mind, too, is if the Big 12 is going to come out with some big push, maybe the championship game masks some of this that I'm about to talk about, and you can just go BYU, Texas Tech, and make that your big push. Like, hey, these are the 2 teams in our championship game. Put them both in the playoff. But if you did it right now, you do risk ruffling some feathers if you're going to make a big push. And I know BYU fans, you don't care about this, but if you do push BYU over Utah, that might ruffle some feathers. It might ruffle some feathers. You got to think about trying to make a push for both. And let's be honest, nothing against Utah at all. I think they're playoff worthy. I've said that multiple times, but I think their resume is a tougher defense than what BYU's is for sure right now. So then you're like looping yourself into a tougher job there to get both of them pushing that. And something else that I have mentioned, I thought, hey, maybe there's some 4D chess going on here. Like there is also the possibility that some of this is having to pick your spots because you want to, and I know I hate that we have to think sort of like this, but how much capital do you have to use in a battle for the future of the playoff format, which by the way, they just extended the deadline. One of the headlines from this week, they extended the deadline to get the format ironed out for next year instead of just rolling with a 12-team playoff again, which seems like something that probably should happen, but whatever. Which tells you like they're going to extend it next year. They're going to find a way to do that. That negotiation, that discussion is still ongoing. Maybe you just don't want to use some of the capital that you have built up. You got to pick your spots maybe, and you want to save it more for future playoff. That's some speculation on my part, but I would throw that out there as well. So for those wondering what's going on, I would just at least offer those as somewhat plausible explanations, perhaps. And I'm still hopeful. I don't know if I would say optimistic. I'm still hopeful, I suppose, that we get a little bit more of a push next week if and when we have the Big 12 championship game set with what we assume will be BYU and Texas Tech. Yeah, okay. We'll talk some Oklahoma State here in just a second, but let me pop in with Michael. Michael, I appreciate it. Michael says, love you, John. I'll be back to listen later. Keep up the good fight. I love seeing the national argument. If BYU beats UCF, then we take it up a notch. Yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, I hate to do this to West Virginia fans, but I am going to bring this game up again. I mean, there is the possibility that this turns into like a 2007 backyard brawl moment where I know nothing will ever compare to that rivalry game, 28.5-point favorite at home, all that stuff. I get it, West Virginia fans, but something at least somewhat in the ballpark of that. Losing as a near 3 touchdown favorite when all you have to do is win that game at home to go to the Big 12 championship game and wrap up at that point, at least an at-large chance based on what your regular season resume is going to be. Crazier things have happened. That could still be a loss. So yeah, make sure you got it. Then you can go guns a-blazing, because then it's like, hey, if you lose to the number 5 team in the country again, or maybe they'll be number 4 at that point, War Eagle, maybe they'll be at that point, then you can totally bring all the ammunition out. Bring all the ammunition out at that point. So thank you, Michael. Appreciate you being here. You can click the $sign below the chat box if you would like to submit a super chat and guarantee that your question or comment makes it on the show tonight. Yeah, so let's be honest. Nobody in the committee respects the Big 12. This is where I would disagree. Texas Tech could very easily be like number 7 or 8 if nobody on the committee respected the Big 12. So I do think that that's inaccurate for this year. I think if you wanted to say that last year, I'm 100% with you. This year, based on both Texas Tech and Utah, I think the committee does respect the Big 12 more than it did last year. The problem here is I think Big 12 fans feel like it deserves even more, particularly with the team sandwiched in between, which is BYU, and that's the spot where it perhaps matters the most because it's the difference between a team being in or out. So just a thought there. But let's talk Oklahoma State. Okay, they hired Eric Morris from North Texas. Did Oklahoma State just put the rest of the Big 12 on notice with their new hire? That's a question we need to ask here. I think initial gut reaction is that this is a very, very good hire made by Chad Weiberg in Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy out, fired him early on after the loss to Tulsa way back in September. It's crazy. That doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it was like 2.5 months ago. They hire Eric Morris. If you recognize the name, he's a former Texas Tech wide receiver. He was also a Texas Tech offensive coordinator once upon a time when a guy named Patrick Mahomes was playing quarterback at Texas Tech. And that's kind of the theme here. Like Eric Morris, been a guy that's worked with and developed some very, very good quarterbacks. Emphasis on that. Very, very good quarterbacks. He is an offensive guy. This is somebody who is going to make the offense much better. And I think the question becomes now, okay, you've got these like offensive guy archetypes, right? Is this Sean McVay or is this Cliff Kingsbury? That's like, I think the scale of what you're looking at here. Is this a guy who won't ever be able to figure out defense and he's just a great offensive coordinator or is he somebody that's the total package? I know obviously McVay in the NFL is just the first name that popped into my head when I think about offensive minded head coach is doing a great job. Lane Kiffin, do we want to go Lane Kiffin? I don't think Eric Morris is going to have the theatrics that come along with that. But I think it's one, I would just rather roll with an offensive guy at probably 9 times out of 10, at least these days anyway, because it's so important to get the quarterback right. An offensive guy, I think, gives you a better opportunity to do that. So I like that. But also, like, Oklahoma State's program had been very dull and lifeless, and the offense was a big part of that. I saw Shahan Jayaraja pointed out they have not had a top half of the league offense since the pandemic. It's crazy. Like, since 2020, Oklahoma State, you think about Justin Blackman and Brandon Whedon and Des Bryant, Mason Rudolph, all these guys that they have had, Tylan Wallace, right? I mean, it's been that long since they had a top half of the league offense. They were last in the league in offense this year. So it's a major deficiency. You need an injection of life, and the easiest way to do that is to bring in somebody who can coach offense. And that's what they're doing with Eric Morris. So I definitely like that. If you're looking at his track record, Coach Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, he discovered Cam Ward as a 0-star recruit with no real major offers, playing in a like run heavy offense in high school. He plucks Cam Ward out to Incarnate Word, where he was the head coach, and turns him into a guy that eventually winds up as the number 1 overall pick in the draft, which is a crazy ascension, right? He becomes one of the most sought after guys in the portal, makes a ton of money to go to Miami, and then gets taken number 1 overall in the draft. He then is at Washington State, where he develops John Mateer, who then gets plucked by Oklahoma, right? There's another quarterback to add to the ledger of the work that Morris has done. Last year at North Texas, he resurrected, Big 12 fans, again, there's Big 12 connections everywhere here. He resurrected the career of Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris, of course, famously, I guess he really got Wally pipped by Max Duggan in 2022, and then just fell into relative obscurity before suddenly, I'm trying to remember. Did he play 23 then at TCU? Was not successful. I had forgotten about him, and then he resurfaces at North Texas last year. He's like 3rd in the nation in total offense. Winds up at Virginia this year. And now another guy, Drew Mestamaker, redshirt freshman at North Texas this year. He's the nation's leader in passing. So he's done it again with another guy who was an unheralded recruit. And this is now a guy that this is the other part of it. Oklahoma State, you want to sell something early, you want to get people on board, you want to get people excited, well, then get some instant results, get some instant impact. And that's what appears to be happening here. Drew Mestamaker could, I say appears. There is speculation that Mestamaker could follow to Stillwater, which makes total sense. And he's a guy that I think will have a lot of options out on the portal front, but you give yourself a great chance when you're bringing in his head coach, right? I think about like Bennett Sturts. Bennett Sturts followed Ben McCollum from Drake to Iowa when he could have gone a lot of places in the transfer portal in basketball this past year. Seems like a similar sort of situation there. That's what you're hoping happens. Plus, North Texas, as you might imagine, with an offense as good as they have a 1,000-yard rusher, I believe is originally from the state of Oklahoma. Caleb Hawkins, maybe he could come. They've got a pair of pretty good receivers that people seem to think are P5 worthy. So even if you get a handful of those guys, you could really jumpstart your offense and get things working next year and be up and running quicker. Oklahoma State also, it's been reported that Oklahoma State's going to rev share at the full level. So they'll provide Eric Morris with a lot of resources, at least certainly very competitive resources across the Big 12, which is good because some of the narrative around Oklahoma State for a while there with Gundy had become, well, Gundy wasn't fast enough to get around to whatever he needed to do to get his NIL game in order. And I think that's been pretty well publicized by now, but that doesn't mean that it was like Oklahoma State was unwilling to give the money. It meant that Mike Gundy was unwilling to do what it needed to do to rally everybody around that. And I think Oklahoma State has worked very hard to prove that hey, we can do this. Like, we can compete for Big 12 championships and college football playoff spots. Like, we can do that. And I think to get Eric Morris, you definitely were going to have to prove that. Like, this is a guy that had a lot of interest and options. You were hearing his name connected to Arkansas quite a bit. And Alex Goldish, he did not take the Oklahoma State job. I have no idea if it was offered to him or what. But he was another name involved there. That's another guy with a lot of options. And he was named enough that sure seems like there was at least some level of mutual interest. You're not doing that if you don't have a competitive NIL package, because these guys are getting a lot of interest all the way around right now. I've seen it reported a couple places that Colin Klein was the other finalist, former K-State offensive coordinator, current Texas A&M offensive coordinator, of course, Heisman Trophy finalist back in 2012. K-State fans will sleep a little easier, at least for, another couple days, that Colin Klein has not been hired yet as a Power 4 head coach. It won't be at Oklahoma State. It obviously would have been painful to see that happen intra-conference. To me, as I evaluate that, and I'm somebody that's very high on what I think Colin Klein's potential is, but it feels to me like it's like, okay, there's two guys who are, really good offensive minds. one has been a head coach and has proven it at Incarnate Word, where, you have to, I mean, I read a little bit about what he was saying about their facilities, and like, you're starting from the bottom of the barrel. He figured out how to win at Incarnate Word, and now has figured out how to win at North Texas. Like, he has the head coaching experience. He's proven it at really small levels that he can build a program. And by the way, even North Texas, though it does have some nice advantages, specifically geographically. Another thing Shahan Jayaraja reported is that they're near the bottom of the American Athletic Conference in terms of NIL spend, rev share there. So he's found a way to make it work with limited amounts of resources, which I think always bodes well. If you're going to be if you're not Texas Tech and you're going to be at a Big 12 school, you may have to get a little more crafty and creative with your resources. I think that is a reason to be excited about this. So all that being said, probably less risky than taking Colin Klein, and maybe similar upside. I mean, I still think both of those guys I would view as high upside. This one seems like a little bit less risk, but I mean, who knows? Maybe Oklahoma State will regret that decision. Colin Klein is going to get a head coaching job somewhere, if not this year, in the very near future, but I think it may well be this year. So interesting how that seemingly came down. I'm hoping to catch up. You guys really enjoyed the interview I did with Carson Cunningham about what happened on the way down for Oklahoma State football when Gundy was fired. I'm hopeful to get linked up. We were trying to do it today. Schedules didn't quite work out. I'm hopeful to get linked up with him pretty soon to get some more insight on that. Maybe if that is true that Colin Klein was another finalist, what this means for the NIL situation at Oklahoma State. I know he's fired up about the hire, as I think he should be. So I'm looking forward to get you that. And hey, for some Oklahoma State fans that were like, hey, where's my downfall of K-State football video? Are you doing our downfall? I'll get you on the way back up here. I like your hire, and we'll try and get Carson on the show, who could give way more in-depth insight into that than I ever could. So congrats to Oklahoma State getting it wrapped up. I love the fact that Eric Morris will get a chance to continue coaching North Texas. Got a shot at the college football playoff. I really like that they are doing that. It's such a stark contrast to what's going on with Lane Kiffin. And I know so much of that is because it's like, well, you're going to take another job within the same conference. Like, I understand how it would just be like, all right, just leave, dude. You're not coaching out the rest of the year with this team. But a little bit refreshing that that's going to be the situation at Oklahoma State. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for me, guys. Shorter pre-Thanksgiving show, but make sure and watch the video from earlier today, which dove more into the specifics of BYU's resume and how crazy it is that they are the last team out of the field right now, how disheartening it is. But hopefully you pick something up from this. Genuinely hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I am incredibly thankful for all you guys who watch the channel and support my work. You can do so just by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or subscribing to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. I appreciate everybody who does that sincerely. And it is John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you're so inclined there, if you leave me a message, I will get to it to start the next show. So anyway, enjoy your families. Enjoy some turkey. Enjoy the Chiefs. I was going to say drilling the Cowboys, but I can't even put on the cocky Chiefs fan mask anymore this season. And I know some of you will roll your eyes, but this season has worn me down a bit on that. I'm very stressed by watching Chiefs games now. So maybe just, hope that the Chiefs get a win. Watch the Chiefs tomorrow with me. Hope they get a win. Be thinking of your boy. Thank you all. Take care, and I will talk to you very soon.